as one that negotiates the geographic, the relation between and among states, and locate the International Criminal Court as the domain of the body politic, because it negotiates, renegotiates the construal of power between and among individuals. You see, geopolitics, ICJ, body politic, ICC. I'd like to prick your imagination. It's not as precise as my political science and international affairs mentors would have it. 2 books. This is the only reason why I brought these books. I read Jack Donnelly a lot. I like what he says, but listen to what he says about human dignity. So-called non-Western conceptions of human rights are in fact not conceptions of human rights at all, but involve alternative conceptions of human dignity. He separates right away the notion of human dignity from that of human rights, which is quite a deviation from the very preambular text of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the covenants that make up the international bill. It plainly states human dignity is the foundation of human rights. And therefore, when you read traditional international relations textbook, bring me the top 10, and all of them devote one paragraph and say, human dignity is the foundation of human rights, but that discourse belongs to the ethicists, and say nothing more about it. That's the deficit. That's the deficit in the international law discourse, precisely because, again, the religious and the faith and the ethical cultural community needs to address, because there is such a proposition that where law ends, justice begins. Human rights law, when it goes into the notion of human dignity, there is in fact a repositioning of power relations, precisely because to those who have more is demanded of them in law. And I think that's an important. The second thing that I would like to convey to you is that not only must we relocate our construals and discourses of power and power relations, but that we must member. We must remember the body politic. Heretofore, international relations is the relations of what the Westphalian model has bequeathed us in international law, nation states. And therefore, much of our conception of law, of international law, of domestic law, of municipal law, of national law, is revolving around the nation state. And therefore, again, within the geopolitical conception, national security, state security, as compared to people's security and human security. Again, locate the ICJ and the ICC. It is not a comparison that I'm not saying that one must move away from the other to move into the ICC, but it simply points to the fact that a fuller appreciation of the ethical and the moral compass is for us to point both to the nation state and to the human, because that is where the real sovereign resides. And therefore, even our own all too anthropocentric conception of human rights is under question, precisely because, and my way usually of explaining it is that how can I enjoy my human rights when I am in the middle of a cesspool, decaying earth? So the anthropocentrism of our understanding of rights, of human rights, is under question, precisely because the planet Earth is as fragile, even much more fragile, than just the human species. We are but part of it. And therefore, in the reconfiguration of our understanding of international affairs, in the relation of nations and in the relation of peoples, we also need to check on the anthropological and perhaps the community that's gathered here may look at a more cosmological And that's religions and spiritualities contribute to that. Lastly, which is simply it's simply another it's reimagining. Reimagining the political, reimagining international affairs, reimagining the United Nations. I submit to you that the United Nations is a product of memory and imagination. It was the United Nations, and for that matter, the many institutions, including the International Criminal Court, they are products of memory and imagination. They were products of the memory of colonialism, a memory of the 2 world wars that have visited us unkindly, and the many conflicts, including genocide and Holocaust. And the crafters of the charter said, no more again. Nunca más. Plus jamais. No more. And so it said that in memory of this, we will reinscribe in our hearts and in our minds and in the text of our laws. And might it be that not just in the community of nations, but individually and severally as nations joining the United Nations, might it be that in memory of the horrors of the past, we can reimagine some other relation of nations. The globalization that has challenged and vexed our contemporary imagination today has brought another slogan. Another world is possible. Indeed, a reimagining of international relations. The International Criminal Court is, I think, the most solid example of the nation-state construct and the human people construct coming together. It's the product, perhaps, in fact, of civil society. It was civil society that brought it to fruition. And it convinced a very traditional understanding of nation-state negotiating among themselves that there is another community that is part of the body politic that has been all this while been neglected, that has not been part. And yet, it was successful in crafting, in helping evolve the International Criminal Court. And so, the challenge really is, I've gone on too long, but the last part that I would have wanted to speak about would be the whole issue of political forgiveness. Political forgiveness, because in the repopulating of the body politic, what is important is not only the restorative justice that you do in your small communities between parent-teacher relations. I mean, there's not a dearth of material in restorative justice in these areas. Where there is a dearth of material is in the healing of nations. There's very few material in the restorative justice area in the healing of nations, for the healing of the nation. And therefore, what to me the International Criminal Court is doing is to help reconnect our understanding of the atrocities of the past, intersect that with our appreciation of the present. It's the role of confession. Remembering atrocities of the past is a function of contrition. Intersecting our memory with the past and how we appreciate what's happening in Darfur, in Sudan, and Rwanda is the function of confession, which is acknowledging moral indebtedness to the victim. We have caused slavery. That's a remembrance of the past. We want to apologize, but not only we want to apologize, we want to repay however else you will do. It's an acknowledgement of our moral indebtedness to the victim. That's the present. And the last and the third is that the present must definitely inform the future. Must definitely inform the future. And this is the offering of and the seeking for forgiveness.